we got to talk about a comment or a tweet, whatever, because he said it on his podcast. He said it on Twitter. Paul Bissonnette.
Glorious tweet. Glorious comment, Bruno.
Biznasty 2.0 from the Spittin Chiclets podcast on July 20th tweeted out that the Leafs are winning back-to-back cups. And then he went on the Spittin Chiclets podcast and he talked about it and just gave his thoughts on why on earth he thinks a team that hasn't won a playoff series since 2004 is going to win back-to-back cups. But that's what Biznasty thinks. And when you think about it, Lepore, I mean, it's not crazy to say that. I mean, it is kind of crazy, but you look at where the Leafs are right now on the odds board to win the Stanley Cup, to win the Eastern Conference, to win the Atlantic Division. I mean, they're right at the top. They are still considered, even though a lot of fans think that they've had a bad offseason so far and Kyle Dubas needs to go and the Leafs have no idea what they're doing. All the odds makers don't think that way. They still think the Leafs are one of the best teams in the NHL. So, Lepore, what are your thoughts on those Paul Bissonnette comments, first of all?
I think this move, and that's exactly what it was by Paul, was absolutely brilliant because he threw it out there and he, just like everybody else at Barstool, knows that it was going to get a crazy reaction. I mean, here we are on our podcast talking about it, right? So he knew he was going to get the crazy reaction and he knew he was going to get the comments and the discussion because it's not that crazy. Like, obviously it's crazy for any team to make any prediction, or they're going to win back-to-back cups, but how it is the Leafs. Like it or not, everyone, the Leafs are a really good team. They're a 115-point team. If someone said, oh, the Leafs are going to win the cup, they're a 115-point team, that's not a hot take. So for him to make the move and say, this team is not only going to win one fucking Stanley Cup, they're going to win 2 Stanley Cups back to back. Bravo, Paul. Bravo for getting the reaction. And I love you for it. I love you for it because it gets people pumped up. And I always say, if people are not talking about you, that's when you should be afraid. If people are shitting on you and they're making fun of you and they're criticizing you, you're still relevant. They're still talking about you. And stuff like this just shows what the Toronto Maple Leafs are, because he could have said that about any team. Edmonton, they've Connor McDavid. It's not like that a blasphemous take to say that, oh, this team can add some pieces, win a cup, and is going to go win another one. They got new goaltending, better goaltending. They freed up some cap space with Keith retiring. It wouldn't be that blasphemous of a take. But Paul Bissonnette picked the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Leafs are clearly now one of his brands, as we're seeing on the Spittin Chiclets podcast and their tweets. Good on him, man. He knows what he's doing. And based on the following that Spittin Chiclets has, they know what they're doing better than Bruno and I. So, oh, well.
Oh, you nailed it, man. Biznasty knows exactly what he's doing. You know what it reminds me of? You know, in The Dark Knight when the Joker is just like blowing shit up and then he's walking away. Like that's Paul Bissonnette.
I see what you're saying.
He's sending out his tweet. Leafs are winning back-to-back cups. Clicks enter on the tweet. Walks away. There's an explosion in the background. He doesn't care. He's creating all this engagement. He's firing people up in the middle of July and the dog days of summer. He's creating content. It's just a brilliant move from Paul Bissonnette. And again, I'm sure a part of him genuinely believes that the Leafs are going to win back-to-back cups, but it was more of a, I'm going to light a match here.
Oh, fuck.
And watch and see what happens on social media. And, you know, he created a lot of engagement. So good for him. But Lepore, like when you look at the Atlantic Division right now, the Florida Panthers, in my opinion, at least, have taken a step back after the Matthew Tkachuk trade because they lose Jonathan Huberdeau.
Yeah.
They lose Mackenzie Weegar, who's one of their best D-men. And again, like, sure, they got Matthew Tkachuk, who's a really good player, but they still have Sergei Bobrovsky under contract for another 4 years at $10 million a year. And that's exactly why they traded away Mackenzie Weegar as well, because they can't sign all these guys. When it came to Huberdeau and Tkachuk, they picked one or the other, and they decided, okay, we're going to pay Matthew Tkachuk, who's 4 years younger than Jonathan Huberdeau. We're going to give him this contract. That's fine. But they also traded away Mackenzie Weegar, maybe because they're kind of crazy and they didn't really have to include him in the trade package, but also because They don't have enough money to sign this guy. So they've taken a step back. Then you have the Tampa Bay Lightning. They lost Andre Palat. They had to trade Ryan McDonough. They have their own cap issues. So when you look at the betting odds right now, Lepore, the Leafs are the favorite to win the Atlantic Division next season. Yeah. They're plus 200. The Florida Panthers are plus 220 and the Lightning are plus 225. So it's all very close. But right now, the odds makers think that the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to win the Atlantic Division. Your thoughts?
Yeah. I think I'd put them there. Like, it's close, and I just make all the points you made. And what I'd add to it is that Tampa Bay doesn't really care about the regular season. And based on even the playoff runs they've had in the last 3 seasons, it wouldn't shock me if, quote unquote, guys take the first part of the year off and Tampa doesn't get to that great of a start, and again, no one will question them and everyone will know they're going to turn it around. But as far as the regular season goes, I got to say, like, I'd bet on Toronto just because of the style they play too. Like, Toronto's going to score goals. I mean, they've shored up the D, I think. I'm gonna say as best as they can, but like the D looks pretty solid. If they can get average goaltending, again, it's not a hot take. This is a 115 point team last year. And I was pointing out all year, man, last year, the difference between everyone was like, oh my God, the Florida Panthers, look at their record, look at their numbers, this and that. The difference between Toronto and Florida was the first 2 weeks of the season when the Leafs went like, I think 3-5-1 or 2-4-1 or something. And Florida went 7-0 in their first 7 games. And the Leafs were a little over 500 in overtime and shootout. And I may be exaggerating the number, but weren't the Florida Panthers like 14-2 or like 16-2?
Yeah, or maybe it was like an outrageous overtime shootout record.
Maybe it was in the shootout. They were like, they were like 7-1 or 8-1 or something like that. That was the difference between them being the best team in the division and the Leafs being in the second spot. But to the point then, I mean, Florida's regressed objectively. And I would say, you know, I hate to break this to you, Florida Panthers fans, but there aren't any Florida Panthers fans. So at the end of the day, I think it is what it is. I think most people put them on the lie detector test would pick the Leafs to win the division in the regular season, everyone, and then they're in the regular season before everyone flips out at me.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? At the end of the day, you can make fun of the Leafs all you want. They can't win a playoff series. They're not clutch. They suck, this and that. They're a great regular season team.
Fucking right,
the playoffs all 6 seasons under Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner since they've been here. I think they have like I want to say they have like the 5th best record in the league since those guys joined the team. And I'm actually going to check that out right now.
How
so
do you
we
do
got to
that?
go back to 2016, 2017, and I'll just look at pure points percentage. The Leafs, yep, right now, looking at these numbers, they have the 5th best points percentage in the NHL since Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner entered the National Hockey League.
You know what, Bruno? I think they may even be, maybe not number 1. I think maybe at a certain point they were number 1. It was since Keefe. I think I've seen the post, like, since Keefe came in, they're like right at the top. If not 1, they're 2 or 3 or something.
Oh yeah. Under Keefe, they have an even better record. Like, they're an awesome regular season team. There's no disputing that. So when the odds makers have them as the favorites to win the Atlantic Division, it's kind of hard to disagree. And like I said, you go through what's happened with the other top teams, and then you look at Boston, they're still in limbo because even though it seems like they're going to sign Bergeron and David Krejci to 1-year deals, and they're going to run it back with the old crew, those guys haven't signed yet. And I don't think Boston is as good as the Florida teams. And then you have the Ottawa Senators who, yes, they made some great moves this offseason and they look very formidable in their top 6. That team's not ready to win the Atlantic Division. So right now, it's the Leafs, man. Even though, you know, they haven't made any huge splashes this offseason, haven't made any big trades, haven't signed any big free agents. They're running back pretty much the same team as last year, minus Jack Campbell and inserting Matt Murray and Ilya Samsonov. And right now, the odds makers think that they are going to win the Atlantic Division.